Welcome to the Asking Why podcast. I'm your host, Clint Davis, and today we have Daniel Packard, who I've been talking with before and I've been doing some work with over the last couple of weeks. He's a mechanical engineer and CEO of Full Liberation Technology, and they have come up with a really cool way of reverse engineering permanent solution to your anxiety, OCD, self-doubt, some of the things that we help clients struggle with. And we know this is kind of a brain issue. We know it's a nervous system issue. And so today we're going to talk about some of the cool ways in which their company is helping people walk through staying calm, staying present, staying in their body, because we know that so much of the symptoms that we are dealing with in 2025 are just that. They're just symptomatic of what's going on in our body and in our nervous system. And it's really about, feeling safe in who we are. And so, man, I'm so glad you're on here today, and I'm excited to hear from you.
Thank you so much. It's a real honor to be here talking to your audience. I know your audience specifically is going to really appreciate what I'm going to share because just the fact that your podcast is called Asking Why, and it's such a powerful position to be in. Just so it takes courage to just keep asking why till you get to deeper truth.
Mm-hmm.
But also what you already talked about, your audience is already savvy about these things that a lot of people aren't savvy to. And so I'm just going to add an extra layer of understanding that can perhaps give some powerful insights to just help them understand their situation more deeply. But I already know your audience and just what you teach, Clint. We're going to have a really super valuable conversation.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
excited about it.
yeah.
So tell us a little bit about you and, your story and how you came about, from mechanical engineer to trying to figure out anxiety and OCD and all this stuff.
It's a good question because people often ask, "Wait, you're an engineer and your feelings like what? That doesn't make sense." And I do understand that. So I want to share my very painful, horrible story that over time revealed to me this sort of sad realization that the personal development, self-help, psychology, therapy industry as a trend um, is not individuals, but as a trend may be bordering up there with corrupt, not consciously, but unconsciously. And at the very least, is teaching people things that at the very least is going to keep them stuck and never solve it. At very worst, might be harming people. And it's often the people you would least suspect it. And so I want to kind of share what happened to me and the mistakes I made so that your audience just knows what to look out for and also can just be mindful to get the best care possible.
Mm-hmm.
And the painful thing that happened to me was that I fell in love. Well, that was the good part. That's always the good part. But Disney lied. You don't always live happily ever after. Statistically, marriages end 50% of the time. So we fell in love. She was charming and fun and beautiful, and we just clicked. And it was one of those rare, worlds collide. You complete me. We were engaged within months, and that was the great part. And then I got the painful lesson that just because someone loves you, which she did, and I loved her, they can only love you at the capacity that they can love you. And so we loved each other, but I later found out I was basically being verbally abused, and I was too codependent and insecure to leave. And I was trying to be the hero and save the love and be the white knight, which was great. But 2 years of that, and when we finally broke up, uh, I I had crippling complex PTSD, just the tiniest thing, and my whole system just redlined, fight or flight. It was terrifying. My anxiety was horrible. My self-doubt was in the garbage. Self-doubt, all of it just was horrible. So, like your audience, I go looking for help. I go to therapists, I go to coaches, I follow gurus, I went to retreats. I was maybe in a cult. I was definitely in a cult. Did ayahuasca. Read the books. I did the meditations. I did it. I did almost all of it. And after 10 years and 100 grand spent, it was better, but it was all still there. The symptoms were still there. I still had the self-doubt. I still was getting triggered. And not only was I still in pain, But then there was this guilt and this shame of like, what's wrong with me? I went to all these experts and I still got what's wrong with me. I felt broken. I felt this shame. I also felt sort of, I was losing hope because I'd gone to the experts and I was just, yeah. And I was on the beach in Mexico, just kind of, and I just broke down and I kind of looked up to whoever's up there pulling the strings. And I just said, like, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? I know this is a test, but I spent 10 years and 100 grand trying to pass it. Like, what's the test? And I got a message which led me to then reverse engineer a system that healed my pain and now helps other people's pains very quickly and permanently. So there's a happy ending, which I'll tell you about. But first, just based on what I shared so far, is there anything you want to share? Is there a question you want to ask me?
No, I mean, I think, I think that in the world of psychology, I think that there's a lot out there that is trying to treat, symptoms, and for many years haven't gotten the root causes of the problems, right? Anxiety, OCD, these are symptoms of the root cause. And yeah, I think people in 2025 are aware that those are a lot more aware anyway, that those are symptoms. But we live in a society where quick fixes and medication and going and sitting with somebody to understand ourselves more is kind of what therapy is. And I think that has, there's a book out called Bad Therapy. I don't know if you've read it, but, we're looking at 2025 and we're looking at the young adults in 2025 who are the most therapized, most aware, most information gathered, most TikTok, Instagram saturated with mental health techniques and tools and resources. And yet they're the most anxious, generation of all time. And so something we're doing isn't right. So, I'm just interested to hear kind of where you're going, because you're on that same track.
Preach. Yeah. So that, not just feeling my pain, but seeing the pain of the world and was part of that breakdown on the beach. I knew I wasn't alone. I knew I wasn't the only one feeling trapped and broken and stuck on this hamster wheel. And so before I tell you kind of the message that I got, I want to back up. That idea that we look back on our lives and we go, oh, that's why that happened. So this is an important piece in what happened on the beach, was that growing up, my dad was a physicist, and he sat me down one day when I was 10 and he said, Daniel, you don't always know who knows what they're talking about. It's the person that gets results that you should listen to. Anybody can have a concept or an idea. He said, but results matter. It's the person that gets results that you should probably trust more and you should listen to, because results matter. And it was a lot to tell a 10-year-old, but I dug it. And I was like, results matter. And so I loved that idea. And I went to mechanical engineering school to learn how to reverse engineer complex problems and then build prototypes and test and refine until you build something that gets results. It's a certain mindset, it's a certain training, it's a certain attitude to see something seemingly unsolvable and then build something that's not theoretical. It has to work. That's what engineers are great at. And so I'm on the beach, turning to source, God, nature, just being like, what do you want from me? And I was just being pissed. I just wanted to be rhetorically angry. But I heard this download of results matter. And basically, you're not getting great results. And I'm an engineer. I know how to get great results. And I thought, all right, necessity is the mother of invention. So I started my research company, Full Liberation Technology, with the mission to see, would it be possible to approach this as an engineer and reverse engineer a system such that if you worked the steps in the right order in a certain amount of time, you would get the result, which is that the anxiety, the procrastination, the people pleasing, the perfectionism, self-doubt, OCD, whatever it is, it's solved in a short period of time, that it's measurable, and we have a high success rate. We don't want people trying this and failing. And so it took 8 years. And it was hard. We worked with addicts in South Africa. We worked with monks in India. We worked with entrepreneurs in Europe. We worked with athletes in the U.S., trying to figure this out and test and build prototypes and track data. And 8 years, over $1.2 million spent just developing and testing. And I was one of the first to get the benefits. I woke up one morning, because I was one of the early test subjects. I was about to say guinea pigs, but that doesn't sound good. And I woke up one morning and I was just deeply calm. And I thought, well, okay, this is temporary. I felt this before from meditation. This is temporary. 1 week goes by, 2 weeks goes by. It's been 10 years. And I have what I call a default tranquility where I can feel things, but there's just this deep calmness underneath. And my team saw that in me and they said, well, we did it. We cracked the code. I said, no, it's not about me. We have to systematize this and make sure that this is scalable and can help others. So that was a lot of the testing, was to take what worked in me, but then systematize it, test it. And now, we have an online program that basically, if you work the steps in the correct order within 6 weeks, what you're struggling with, anxiety, OCD, people-pleasing, self-doubt, is measurably solved. And we're very proud of our 90% success rate. That's the number we care about. And that it's scalable. And so now we're working with universities and schools and governments to get this into large organizations that need just something more effective and simpler and faster acting. That's what we got.
Yeah.
That's my story.
Okay. So what do you feel like you found out was the root kind of driver?
Well, I want to share what we discovered through kind of the filter of helping your client get just better results in general, whether it's with us or just anything, because we learned a lot about the industry and what works and what doesn't work. And so the first thing I want to share is just a few things for your audience to look out for from a systems engineering perspective to understand why they're not getting better results, so they don't blame themselves, and how to get better results moving forward. So the first thing is that some things in life, from the second they're designed, they just work. The bicycle pretty much hasn't been changed too much. The zipper, they kind of nailed from the very beginning. There was that Velcro phase, but like zippers, a fishing hook kind of nailed it. They're still using them. But then the rest of the world, there's been improvements. We used to, for infection, they would take your blood and put it outside in the fresh air. And then George Washington died, and they started to go, well, maybe that's not such a good idea. And these leeches don't seem to be working out either. So what does it take to get better results? And the answer is you need to innovate. You need innovation. The reason our internet speeds are 24 times faster, innovation. The reason there's a helicopter on Mars, innovation. The reason we can get across the U.S. in hours instead of months and not get dysentery, and, innovations. And so the first thing I want to share is this industry that we're in, the technology, while good, it's old. Spirituality is about 5,000-year-old technology. It's great, but it's not modernized. Most of personal development was founded by, a lot of the Greeks and the Chinese. It's 2,000-year-old technology. It's great. It's wise, but we're not innovating. We are reconstituting and rehashing good concepts, but there's not a lot of innovation. And so the first thing I want to tell your audience is part of the reason I think they're not getting better results is it's not your fault. This industry as a whole, I call it the improvement industrial complex. It's a $1 trillion industry globally per year. That, as you pointed out, we're getting worse results. And I think part of it is just a lack of innovation. And part of why we're getting better results is we're just engineers, and we took good things that needed a modern facelift and innovation to just get better results through innovation. So I'll share more what we discovered. But first, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that on some level, I agree with you. I think it depends on what you're talking about. So I don't know. You're not saying enough for me to know what you're saying. You're innovating and adding to from ancient things or spirituality or any of that kind of stuff. So I'd have to have the specifics to kind of have an opinion.
Fair enough. It's a general sort of trend-wise perspective, and there can be exceptions, absolutely. And I'm not being super clear, so I get your point. But do you sort of get what I'm sharing?
I mean, I see what you're saying, that within treatment of, a lot of things, like we used to do phlebotomies on veterans, and now we understand the brain, and science has revealed those things. I think, there are some clear truths on, what are the core problems. And I think those two core problems are where people are trying to find their identity and where they're trying to find their sense of safety. And reading through your material and doing the stuff, I think you're primarily looking at, the nervous system and the body and people's sense of safety and how they can manage that and how they can, breathe through those things and regulate themselves and all that kind of stuff is what I took away from it.
Yeah, we are definitely doing that, and there are some, better and better, more innovative truths as we get closer to the truth and the multiple truths. It was, it's the delivery system that I think at times hasn't gotten a lot of innovation just because, I would talk to people that started going to therapy 50 years ago, and it sounded like my therapeutic experience. Good concepts, but the delivery system and really just the systemization to get better results. I didn't see a lot of that. So, and the other piece that I want to point out is that usually,
When you say therapy, the delivery system to me is the person that's in the relationship with the other person. So that's, if you're in counseling, the delivery system is literally the human being on the other side of you. So what do you mean by innovating that?
that's a very good question. Delivery system could be a lot of things. And in one way to look at a delivery system is the practitioner or therapist or healer you're working with. But I mean, the delivery system is the structure and the organization of the system and how it's built.
Gotcha.
For instance, are you just talking and exploring?
Gotcha.
You
Yeah.
so
So you would say psychotherapy went from, Freud, who is looking at it from a, id ego perspective and these unconscious things. I mean, Jung, all these different modalities. Then it moved into the late 70s and 80s with, kind of person centered therapy where you sit and you listen to somebody talk about their pain and learn more about their trauma and understand themselves more, and that would lead to change. And that hasn't obviously worked very well, although partly it's good. And now we've got a variety of ways of doing therapy, from, all kinds of different modalities that don't seem to be coming together in one way. I think even the idea of like, what is healing? How is someone healed? Is it just behavior modification? So if somebody's an alcoholic and they stop drinking, but they're still miserable in their life, did they actually find healing, or did they just, you know, trade alcoholism for 5Ks? Um, is that the kind of stuff you're talking about?
well, yeah, I think you said it, the structure and the organization. So here's an example. Usually, most of what we get from well-intentioned practitioners, healers, coaches is usually understanding and individual tools, usually, that are good for managing the symptoms. Meditation is a
Hmm.
good one, cognitive behavioral therapy. It's a tool to manage. And for management, there's some great tools. However, what we saw from the research was to create permanent change quickly and systematically, you really needed a set of tools that are optimized to work together on multiple layers simultaneously to get a specific job done. I spent, 1 year working with one person and learned one toolkit, and it wasn't complete, so it didn't solve anything. Then I went over here, I got another toolkit, and then I went to another toolkit. And because each toolkit wasn't complete and designed to work together, it was just not solving it. If you hire a contractor and they just show up with a hammer, they have a great tool, but you need an optimized toolkit for that specific job. And so one of the reasons I think we don't get better results is an optimized toolkit of all the tools in one place with easy to follow instructions of like work the steps and get the results. That's what we built into our program. Everything is there with really easy to follow instructions. Basically, if you can follow a meal plan, you can be free of anxiety and procrastination. So that's what I mean by systems. It's theoretical, the way I'm sharing it, but here's the impact. So this was 6 months ago. I had a client who, architect, very smart. She's a woman from Vancouver, BC, but, anxiety held her back, self-doubt held her back, procrastination. She'd gone to therapy for a lot of years and she'd done a lot of healing. She had a lot of understanding and she could manage her triggers, which is a huge improvement. But she said, I still feel like I'm on this hamster wheel. I still feel stuck. And she heard about our company and she heard, that we back up our results, meaning we only charge people at the end when you get results. She said, that's incredible. I haven't heard that before. So she did our system, 6-week system. And by around week 4, because we track data, her anxiety, basically there's like a stock chart. We're tracking her data daily. It just went down and down and
Hmm.
down and down. So, and it went down and it stayed down. And she wrote me about week 5 and she just said, I have this consistent calm I have never felt before, but also My focus is up. My productivity is up. Also, I just like who I see in the mirror. Her entire system got better within 6 weeks because of the organization. And so that's the power of having a system optimized with all the tools in one place to get results.
Gotcha. So what is what is that? What are you bringing people to? Like how, for our listeners, this sounds great. I still don't necessarily understand how to do it. So what are you doing that's different than everybody else?
Well, I'll explain to you our approach and the basic concepts that will simplify and give you a framework for what we do.
Because I went through the stuff, like we talked about before we started. I did the thing you sent me. I understand what you're doing and how you're doing it. So just for the audience, what do you want me to talk about, or how can we talk about what that practically looks like?
So I'll explain to you what we're doing and how we're doing it, so it'll make sense. And then, as you mentioned, you went through, we offer basically, we teach people a 5-minute technique that they can try with an explanation so that the technique really sticks. And at the end, I'm going to send your audience to get that at my website, danielpackard.com/asking-why. And you experienced it, and that's what you're talking about. And I'll explain how we got there. So the first thing is that we approach this as engineers, and we said, we just need to simplify this. It feels complicated, and usually the people that can simplify things understand it on a deeper level. Newton took all of motion on planet Earth, got it down to 3 laws. It's helpful if you can simplify things. So this was the first big perceptual breakthrough, which will resonate with your audience. We're taught, and it feels like we have different problems of the mind. That's how it feels. Multiple problems. I have procrastination. I have a scarcity of mindset. I've got anxiety. I am a people pleaser. It feels like, and we're taught multiple problems stemming from the mind.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem with that is, while there's truth to that, and the mind is definitely part of it, again, we saw this approach wasn't getting great results. So I want to guide your audience to sort of see the first insightful breakthrough that we saw that helped us simplify this to get to a solution. So we'll do a little role play here to you, Clint, and your audience listening. I want you to think of, one behavior or symptom that's holding you back. It could be anxiety, could be procrastination, could be self-doubt, low confidence, people pleasing, needing people to like you. Just pick one of those. And I want you to see yourself in a situation where that might come up, where the anxiety might come up, where the procrastination or self-doubt might come up. Just see yourself in that situation. And I want you to see yourself kind of doing the behavior. And now I want you to see and try to kind of understand that perhaps underneath that behavior may just be some fear. The anxiety could just be a lot of fear. Procrastination could be the fear of starting or finishing things. Self-doubt could be this fear of being your true authentic self. Perfectionism could be a fear of making a mistake. Can you see that on sort of like a simplified level, that perhaps what we're experiencing are symptoms of one thing, which is fear? Does that track?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so now, just as best you can, try to connect to that fear that's underneath the behavior and sort of see, where is that fear? Where do we feel fear? Well, we throat, chest, heart, stomach, gut.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you, Clint, are those mind words or body words?
Body words, definitely.
Those are body words. So we are taught primarily that we have multiple problems of the mind. What the research showed was that actually what we're dealing with is different symptoms of one thing, fear, which originates and starts in the body. And I know this kind of goes along. You can open your eyes if your eyes are still closed. And the reason I bring this up is because it makes sense, but a lot of times people don't know this. And so they're being sent to the symptom level in the mind. And at best, you can manage it. But what we found is that you can actually solve fear in the body. And when you solve the fear, not manage the fear, not overcome the fear, face the fear, you can heal the fear in the body. And in a bit, I'll tell you how to do that. And then the fear fades. And then the symptom, the anxiety, the procrastination, the people pleasing, the self-doubt, the OCD, that fades, goes away, and stays away. So that's the first big sort of perceptual shift we got, was that we're taught multiple problems of the mind. That's going to keep you in symptom management. And we found it's actually symptoms of fear, which is in the body. I'll tell you how we solve it, but what do you think about that?
It's moving people from the intellectual to the somatic, to the, being and doing the body work, paying attention to your gut, paying attention to your heart, finding where you feel those feelings in your body, making sure that you understand, like, man, you're an embodied person. As a Christian, we would say, like, we're a spiritual body in in a physical form. We have a soul, we have a heart, we have a mind. Some of these things the heart's literally physical, but the idea of those things is that you're not just this intellectual meat machine that's walking around. You actually have a body that you need to pay attention to. And most people, have never been taught to pay attention to where their feelings are in their body or where those things come up. So it's good.
Yeah. And even just labeling it procrastination. I worked with a very high performer, CEO, and he had procrastination. He spent all this money and coaching on mindset and accountability and, and goal setting, which, okay, it was helpful. But again, he just kept doing it. And when
if you're not regulated, you can't get it done.
Yeah. And when he saw, oh, I'm not a procrastinator, I've got fear that shows up as procrastination. And then we showed him how to heal the fear. The procrastination just went away. You get to operate the way you're designed, which is like children. Children don't need vision boards and goal setting and accountability. Kids just want to be an astronaut, unicorn pilot, dream, whatever. So we're just trying to get people back to their original operationals. And it's just good to know you're not a procrastinator. You're not a people pleaser. You don't have anxiety. There's a fear in your body, and we'll explain where it's coming from, which is that, first of all, once you're in the body, it really simplifies things. If you try to analyze things in the mind, we don't really understand the mind very well. There's like a million bazillion, which is the technical term, million bazillion synaptic pathways and neurons. We don't understand the mind very well. But the body, some things we don't understand, but it's pretty well mapped out. There's a skeleton and hearts and arteries, and there's systems in the body. And we knew that systems can malfunction and systems can be repaired. So we thought, oh, this is good if it's in the body. And we saw a system in the body that pointed to what was causing the fear problems. And you already mentioned it, but I'll just, for clarity, just in a playful way, if you had to guess, guess, what system in the body do you think is making everybody, let's take out the word fear and let's use the word nervous, okay? Just take a wild stab here, Clint. What system, into your audience, what system in the body do you think is malfunctioning and creating a lot of very nervous people? Do you think it is the coronary system, the skeletal system, or the nervous system? What do you think, Clint? What do you think?
Yeah, definitely parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system for sure.
Yeah. Because it's got the word nervous right in there. It should have been a clue. You know it. You get it. But I did 10 years of therapy. Nobody even mentioned a system in the body that had the word nervous. And so I just want to tell your audience, some people are starting to get this. There are people that understand the importance of the nervous system. Clint, you were one of them. Thank you, because that's closer to the root cause. But also, more importantly, it's a system. And so systems can malfunction. They're mechanical, and that gives us power to optimize them to get results quickly. So then the next question was, well, why is the nervous system malfunctioning? Because we know that people teach things, nervous system regulation, and we said, that's good, but your nervous system is still spiking and you're, again, symptom management. And we said, no, we're engineers. We want to solve this. We want a permanently calm person. So we said, what could be making the nervous system malfunction that isn't external? A lot of times people say, well, I had COVID and that's why I'm anxious. Except when they used our program during COVID, they were the calmest they'd ever been. So we wanted to find something that allowed you to be calm regardless of external. That's real resilience. That's real adaptability. And so here's the beauty of systems in the body. Systems are incredible, and we're given all these systems for free. God doesn't charge us. Do you know how expensive it would be to buy a body on Amazon? Like an eyeball alone, one eyeball. Did we get 2 eyeballs, Clint, for free? And they work together, and ears and a tongue is incredible. We get all this for free, this incredible system, and all these systems in the body for free. But there's sort of one guiding rule, which is you better take care of it. And in one specific case, certain systems need basic nutrients to run properly. We need a certain amount of water to run properly. We need a certain amount of electrolytes, certain vitamins, the food pyramid, enough sleep. We need certain nutrients to run properly. If we don't get those proper nutrients, a system can malfunction. Does that make sense? So we said, well, wait a minute. We know about the nervous system, but I'll ask you, Clint, and I'll ask your audience, did anybody ever sit you down when you were younger and say, all right, here are the basic daily nutrients that you need to give your nervous system? I don't mean supplements like vitamins. I mean emotional nutrients to your emotional nervous system. Give your system these basic nutrients, and if you do it, it will function properly. If you don't, it's going to malfunction and you're going to feel fear for the rest of your life. Did anybody ever give you a conversation on how to do basic nutrients of your feeling nervous system? Anybody?
No, not really. But I mean, I would say, that's what I'm trying to do for my kids. That's what how I'm trying to parent from I think scripture gives us some pretty clear evidence that, the way we talk to ourselves, what we believe, those things impact, everything about our bodies.
So you're absolutely right. And you're close to the truth and doing it. And that's wonderful. And that is rare. And your kids are grateful to have you. And as you know, that is rare.
Sure.
Most
Yeah. I mean, that's why I have you
getting
on
that.
here, is because we're trying to teach more people to do that.
Yeah. And to make it simpler and to make it accessible online so people don't have to become your children. That's a very expensive. It's not a scalable business model that only your kids. But I get your point. But also to simplify this and to get it into schools. So,
Sure. So what
what's
are you saying are
happening-
the nutrients for the nervous system?
So I'll tell you the nutrients in a bit, but I'll basically tell you what happens when the nervous system doesn't get proper nutrients. The nervous system basically is your body's threat response system. And if it doesn't get proper nutrients, it malfunctions. And basically, there's a switch in your body that controls fear. And it should be turning on and off at appropriate levels and times. When you have a malfunctioning nervous system because it hasn't gotten proper nutrients your whole life, the fear switch is basically stuck in the on position. And people are feeling these low to high levels of fear, which then give rise to the symptoms of fear, the anxiety, the self-doubt, the procrastination, and the people-pleasing. So the big breakthrough was that your procrastination is not a psychological mindset issue. It's a physiological, emotional nutrient issue. Your anxiety is not a psychological issue. It is a physiological nutrient issue. And the power of that model is that it's simple and easy to learn the nutrients to get to the system. And once you do that, the system heals, the nervous system runs properly. And the end result is what our clients feel at the end of 6 weeks is you just have this default calm. You feel very resilient. You can handle much more because your whole system is just calm and it stays calm. And the whole thing is simple and easy and fast. I was talking to, I was on a big podcast about a year and a half ago, and he listened to the training that I'm going to send your audience to get for free at the end. And he said, I know what you're teaching is good because I basically, over time, figured this out on my own, and my anxiety is basically gone. So these are good common principles. And I said to him, how long did that take you? He said, about 20 years. And I said, yeah, we got it down to 6 weeks. And so that's the power of the engineering, is getting a 20-year journey down to 6 weeks with a 90% success rate. It's by getting the nervous system the nutrients it needs. It just comes back to health. How do you think people's lives would be better? You know this because it's what you teach. If you had a baseline fear, if you woke up every morning and you just felt calm and safe, and that was your default, I want to ask you, Clint, but just ask your audience, how would your life be better, and what would that do to the symptoms of fear? What do you think?
Well, I think you'd be at peace. If you felt calm and your nervous system was regulated, then you wouldn't be looking to protect yourself and go into fight or flight or freeze or fawn or flop or any of the F words that are out there. And so then you could embody what you believe more often.
Exactly. Now, you asked what's one of the nutrients, and I'm going to give you an example of one of the nutrients just to sort of contextualize it so you're not wondering, well, what is it? We'll just do a quick role play, okay? So to you, Clint, and your audience, let's say you're feeling scared and anxious, and on the count of 3, you just turn to me and say, hey, I'm feeling scared and anxious. Say that to me. 1, 2, 3.
I'm feeling scared and anxious.
Yeah, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to feel how you're feeling. You're getting in the way of me being happy. First of all, it doesn't even make any sense why you feel this way. Your life is great. You should stay positive and don't come to me with your problems. If I talk to you that way, does your fear and anxiety go down or does it get worse?
That solved my problems. I mean, just stop doing it, right? No, if
Yeah, what's wrong?
you
Stop.
feel invalidated, you feel unheard, and that, continues to, make you feel unsafe. And so you get dysregulated more.
Yep, it gets worse. Okay, so now imagine you turn to me and you say, hey, I'm feeling scared and anxious. And then I turn to you and I say, oh my God, thanks for telling me. Okay, I'm here. We're going to figure this out. How you feel is valid. Your system would feel calmer and safer, correct?
Yep.
And that is because what you're
Well,
giving
maybe.
your emotional. Well,
Yeah, if I believe you, and
if you believe you. Right.
yeah,
And the
if there's
reason it would
trustworthiness.
is because you are giving the nutrient of listening. And so that's one example of a nutrient that your body needs to get every day is listening. Now, I just want to be clear that you can't just listen away your anxiety. I haven't found it. You can't listen away your procrastination. The reason our system works is because we decoded that there's 7 categories of nutrients and you need to be doing all of them. And the average person does about 2 or 3, but it's the 3 or 4 you're not doing that the nervous system is malnourished and malfunctions. And actually, I'm also going to send your audience a diagram that we have. It's called the Emotional Nutrition Map. And you get to see the 7 emotional nutrient categories, and you can see which ones you do and which ones you don't do. And I'll give you that access at the end. And also, sometimes people say, well, I've already tried listening. That's too simple. That can't work. Again, you need all the nutrients. And also, it's not the concept of listening that is able for us to get results. The Wright brothers had the same concepts as everybody else. Use a wing, propeller, motor. But through engineering and testing and prototyping, they were able to take the same concepts and engineer a breakthrough innovation and result. So if you're sitting there saying, I've already tried listening, yes, you know about listening, you know the importance of it, but it's the engineering of the system. And then also, just because you know to listen doesn't mean you are. We live in a very disconnected from our body lifestyle and culture where we're always on the go and very in the mind and always dealing with things in the mind. So even if you know listening is important, you're probably not doing it consistently and getting the proper nutrients that you need. So one of the reasons our system works really well is because it's a simple structure to get the nutrients to the body consistently throughout the day. I'll share more, but what are your thoughts or suggestions so far?
Yeah, I'm just waiting to hear what that system is. I think you're right when somebody doesn't feel heard by another person, that they don't feel, not only do they not feel seen, but there's a host of issues that go on within them because we're made to be connected to other human beings. And so when we feel heard and seen, we feel safe and our nervous system isn't dysregulated. And so, yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah. And I want to be clear, there are techniques where you can listen to your feelings and it helps regulate. It'll help calm down in the moment. I tried those. They weren't a full solution. So it's already known to do some of these things to make the fear less or temporarily lower it and manage it, which, believe me, is very valuable.
Yeah, I mean,
But
everything you're saying is totally stuff that I talk to people about and I understand and I think are right on. What I'm interested in hearing is what the system is how you make it different that is so effective and permanent is what you said.
so I can't really, I could talk about abstract ideas like how it's layered and how the pieces and the consistency and the accountability and the delivery system and why, but people still wouldn't help them. What I think is the most helpful way to do it is we have this training that I want to send your audience where they can get a quick explanation of how this works and apply one of our techniques. It takes 5 minutes. And when you hear the explanation, how I teach and set things up, and you try the technique for yourself, you'll experientially understand what we're doing and if it's a good fit for you. You tried the technique that we teach,
hmm
and did you at least feel in the moment your system calm a bit, or just something that you could identify as calming or grounding or valuable?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you want me to talk about the details of that. But yeah, I mean, it was helpful. I mean, I wasn't really super dysregulated and I have a ton of other tools, and resources, and everything that you've said today is in the way in which I do therapy with people, and we embody these things with people, and try to integrate it. We're at Clint Davis Counseling and Integrative Wellness, so the treating the whole person, mind, body, and spirit. Those are the things that we do. So it wasn't anything in the thing that I don't already do or that's not pretty surprising to me. So yeah, I think it was helpful.
Good. And yeah, what we teach are truths. The best truths are already known, and someone as knowledgeable and experienced as you will be familiar. It's really the simple organization and application that was the innovation. And also, it sounds like you're teaching all the great things, and what I would say, and not taking away from what you do, which is incredible. There are so many great practitioners out there that are doing good work, and I don't want to be misconstrued. I'm grateful, and we're not the only ones. So I'm sharing this information. If you are trying things and they're valuable and helpful, but you're not getting the result that you want, or it's
Mm-hmm.
not solved and you want a solution, because when you have a solution, you're just unlocked to be that happier, more fulfilled person. Our approach, which again, you can sample in the free training so you can feel it, it's the speed. It's able to solve it in 6 weeks. We have a 90% success rate, which is very, very high for 6 weeks. And also, as I said, we're the only company in this industry that we're aware of where you only pay at the end when you get results.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
pretty
if that
incredible for
sounds good to
sure.
people,
Yeah.
and that sounds different or better, that's sort of the payoff of what we're designing. And so I just want to tell you what we're going to offer, and I want to do a little quick recap and then tell people how they can get the free stuff. How's that sound?
Yeah, that's good.
So yeah, um, I've shared a lot, and your audience has already heard people like me come on podcasts like this and talk about how they've got solutions and all this. And sometimes they try the stuff and it doesn't work the way they'd like. And so I understand if your audience is like, yeah, it makes sense, but I'm skeptical that you could solve things in 6 weeks. I'm skeptical, and you should be skeptical. If I didn't wake up every morning feeling calm permanently, and if I didn't wake up every morning and see the data on our clients, I would not believe me. So don't just trust me. I want people to experience what we do firsthand, which is this 5-minute technique. We call it the fear mechanism turn off technique. And I'm going to send you to danielpackard.com/asking why. It's just my name.com/ the name of the podcast, Asking Why, where you can get that technique. Or if you want something lesser, you can just download the emotional nutrition map, and you can see what are the emotional nutrients that you are delivering and the ones that you're not, just so that you're aware and that you understand if you're not, your nervous system may be malfunctioning and creating a lot of fear and your symptoms. And so the recap is basically that we saw that people don't have multiple problems of the mind, that it's really a body issue, fear in the body, and there's a nervous system, and it's lacking nutrients and malfunctioning and creating all this fear. And if you don't get proper, consistent nutrients, it's going to continue to malfunction. You can manage things, but it's still going to always be cranking out fear and the symptoms of fear, the procrastination, the anxiety, the OCD, the people pleasing. And so does it make sense that if you got the proper nutrients consistently to the nervous system could come back to health, function the way it was designed, like a kid, and the symptoms of fear could go away and stay away? Does that at least make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, the question I would have is, I mean, I totally agree with what you're saying as far as fear and that being a driver to so many things. But I think the other component, but maybe you just don't touch on this, would be around identity, and that a person can be calm and they can feel non-anxious, but they may be depressed or feel less than or feel unworthy. And that's more about an identity. Where does a person have internal worth and value versus safety? And I would say those two things can be, there's some overlap there, but I would say that
It,
somebody might listen
it's
to this.
very true what you're saying. I won't get into it too much, but believe it or not, in the system, both of those are applied because we only got 45 minutes. I tried to keep
Sure,
it,
sure.
but both of those are applied because you know your stuff, Clint, and your audience is lucky to have someone like you. That's why they listen to you. That not many people catch that. The system applies both. But what I will just say, and I've said this again, it's not to say that this is the only answer. your identity, your ego, your worthiness, your fear of all that, it still all matters. But I've had people that said the power of what we're teaching is, let's start with the foundation. If I could just wake up every morning calm and centered and grounded, and just get the nervous system the nutrients it needs so the body can run properly, that's probably the most efficient place to go. If you don't drink enough water and you've got headaches, lack of motivation, brain fog, you could hire a mindset coach. You could go to P90X and get motivated. You could do a lot of things that were all valuable. But probably the smartest thing would be to first just get the nutrients the body needs so that it can run properly. And that's what a lot of our clients do. They get those nutrients, the body runs properly, they're calmer, and then they'll come back and do other modalities to kind of polish and buff out. But in terms of fast
Well,
improvement,
what are they polishing and buffing out if you've solved everything and made it a permanent change? So if they have OCD and anxiety and depression and they do this technique for 6 weeks and all that's permanently gone, what are they coming? Are they just coming back to get rid of another one of those things?
No. I mean, that's a good question. So let me try to explain it. The thing that we're solving in the 6 weeks is that the core fear basically goes away and stays away. And then a lot of those symptoms of fear kind of magically vanish. Your focus comes back, productivity increases, your energy levels go up, your blood pressure goes down. A client recently came to me and they said, well, now that I'm calmer and I'm not a people pleaser, I want to speak up more for my needs in my marriage, and I don't know how. How do I do that? How do I language that? And so,
So you would help them then find the healthy coping mechanisms, the healthy ways of living out of a truth instead of out of the negative beliefs that they were working on. Well, you wouldn't say beliefs, you would say out of the nervous system dysregulation that they're functioning from.
what I would say is that what we're helping people.
This doesn't really have anything to do with what they believe.
Well, what you believe, I don't want to get into the weeds too much, and I just want people to experience the training because it doesn't make more sense.
I'm just trying to conceptualize it. Yeah,
I totally get it.
Because the premise is that it's all in your body, and that your mind isn't the first start. This is the training that I took. Your mind isn't the initiator; it's your body is the initiator. So and a trauma therapist would say belief shape thoughts and feelings, which shape actions. So they would kind of say the opposite, that your nervous system dysregulation has to do with your mind and your beliefs, and the premise is that no, it's your body and its nervous system response, but it's fear in your nervous system. And I would just ask the question, well, what are you afraid of? That you're unloved, that you're unsafe. And for me, that would lead to a higher power, that God is in control, that God is sovereign, that Christ has forgiven you. And I would have to get into all that. But for you, you're just simplifying it to a systematic nervous system approach. And so, yeah, I think people have to go on. And if that's something they're dealing with, then they can try it out. And, if we can't talk any further, plus we're 15 minutes over, we'll shoot all that out there.
Yeah, I think I've shared some things that hopefully make sense. And so if you're listening to this and anything that I've shared at least makes sense enough that you're at least curious to see if this could perhaps work for you or something that you want to try, just go to danielpackard.com/asking-why. You can get learn the free technique, which Clint tried, the free fear mechanism turn-off technique, with an explanation so that it sticks. If you kind of want a smaller, if you're not up for that, you can also download the emotional nutrition map just so you can see what nutrients you're giving yourself and which ones you're not, and see for yourself. Again, don't trust me, trust your own experience, and there's no charge. If it doesn't work, don't pay a penny.
Great resource, man.
So just danielpackard.com/asking-why, see for yourself, and trust your own experience.
Well, Daniel, man, I appreciate you coming on, and I know we went over a little bit, but I think I'm happy to hear that you found some healing and some calm in your life, and you do seem like a joyful guy, and it was nice to talk to you before, and just let you know, I'm always available for connection outside of a podcast. I feel like that there's a lot of men in the world that need help and support, and life's hard. And so if you ever need anything, I'm available and around to ask questions to wrestle with things, and pray for you. Just want you to know that you are worthy and valuable and bringing light to the world. And so I appreciate your time, man.
I've done 200 podcasts and nobody has done that. And so I want to honor you, my friend. I receive your love. Thank you. I am worthy, which I know now, because when you get your nervous system and nutrients, you feel much more worthy of love when you know how to love yourself. But also just thank you for that gesture. I appreciate you. And it was just an honor to connect two men seeking truth, trying to help others heal pain. It's sacred
Yeah, man.
territory we're in. And I honor you as well.
Absolutely. Well, glory be to God, man. And just so you know, I mean, I believe that, with all the religion and all the things that are out there, that truth, that what Christ has done, sets us all free, man. I hope that, in some way you receive that and know that and can embody that so that you can live in peace. So I appreciate your time, man. And let me know if you need something in the future. Thank y'all for listening. It doesn't take very much time. I thought it was very helpful to walk through it just for a few minutes. So if you want to go and do his stuff, we'll put put the links in the show notes and check out what Daniel's come up with. I think it's a lot of what we've talked about in nervous system regulation, and in this world of anxiety and fear, more tools in our tool belt to be able to self-regulate, man, with all that's going on in our society, even in the last couple of weeks, is really important. So God bless you and have a good week.